Are we ready?
Yeah.
You wanted, well, first I should tell everybody that's online, other than Marty, to mute their cell phones and any other electronic devices they have. And because we're being recorded, and you can listen to the recording on the YouTube channel and the Culver YouTube channel. And if you speak, then you're giving authorization for it to be recorded and rebroadcast. You want to do a roll call?
Sure. Mr. Styler,
Yes.
Mr. Styler.
Here.
Miss Monroe,
Here.
Miss Ricciardi,
Here.
Mr. Oosterbaum.
Here.
And I'm here. And Miss Schuman is absent.
She might be the first person to ever got my name wrong.
Really? What do they say? Stiller?
Oh, I've heard a lot. Usually it's Siller.
Stiller.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody stood, even though I didn't say pledge of allegiance.
I just have to say one brief thing. I went to a mayor's meeting where they decide to have a moment of silence after the pledge. And I started to drop my phone, so I went to grab it. And I had Facebook open and it started playing a video during the moment of silence. Some random, you know how you just,
Finger bump
And-
something.
so I, shut the thing up and no one even notices it's me. So when they're done, the mayor's like, can you check the online computer? I think someone's not muted. And the guy's like, oh, yes, sorry. And I'm like,
You didn't say anything.
I wanted to raise my hand and be like, I'm so sorry. But then I was like, well, I think it's the computer. So anyway.
Yeah.
My
Why,
bad.
why confess?
Yeah. Now they all know.
I mean, I
That's how they
feel
get-
better that you all know and that we don't do a moment of silence here because I would blow it probably half the time.
I'd probably start coughing uncontrollably. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. You've all got the,
Yeah,
Copy
I'll
of-
make the motion.
okay. Do I have a second on the motion to approve the minutes from October 22nd meeting?
Can I second if I did the minutes or no?
Yeah.
I usually
Yeah.
don't because.
I'll second it.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
Do we have to do roll call or no?
Not if we're not.
We're not
if you're
gonna count them.
Marty.
Okay.
Just do
Yeah.
4-0, but-
Okay, the financial report for August is next on the agenda. Take it, everybody got a chance to read it.
I'll motion to approve.
Do I have a second on that?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Um, And I'm assuming that Jerry is
Jerry can-
abstaining
Yeah, I guess you could abstain, right, since he
Yeah.
wasn't here.
since he
Oh, for
hasn't.
the. Yeah, because we still have 3.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
All right. I should have asked if there were any questions about the financial report. Okay. The next item on the agenda is old business approval of claims. And know that Marty normally reads them off. We have Bowen Printing for $97.50 for the visitor center. The Culver B&B, Culver Cottage B&B for $7,539.
That's the facade.
That's for facade grant. And Streamline Publishing for Visitor Center, $278. And Town Post Network for advertising for the visitor centers, 400, and the VFW Post 6919 for a facade grant of $8,500, totaling 62,000.
No.
Well, no.
Oh, wait a minute.
The big one.
Oh, yeah, and the construction management and design for the Ready Grant funds of $62,044, with a total of $78,858.50. Do I have a motion to approve those claims?
So moved.
Do
Okay.
I need to vote on these?
You're in now. Yeah.
Yeah, you're in now. You can,
Yeah. You want to second it, Gary?
Sure. I'll second.
I have a motion made by Sarah Jones and approve a second by Jerry Seiler. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I,
Quick,
um,
yeah, a quick
Can I
question.
explain a little bit about the construction management design bill? That's all part of the Ready Grant and the infrastructure that's going in the dunes. We're working out, I'm gonna take the claims to you to approve, and we're also gonna take them to the council, but they have been vetted. We're contracting with Midwest Engineering to review all those claims, all the invoices, to make sure they're
Accurate.
proper and that they're doing the work that they're billing us for. But it's gonna be a different way of paying because that trust fund was set up for the Ready Grant monies. So we're gonna pay out of that trust fund and then that reimbursement is going to go back into that trust fund from the Ready Grant. Shannon Clode with the
Priority project.
projects, thank you,
Yeah.
resources, is taking care of all of that. And I'm so very thankful for her because
So she's working on like an Okra grant, kind of. That's great.
it's very, very confusing with the trust fund, there's just
Yeah.
all kinds of moving parts. So we're working through that, as we go. But that's why
Okay.
there's not necessarily a voucher number or a check number because that money isn't. There may be a check number later when I talk with State Board of Accounts and they say, well, really, you need to do it this way. But for right now, that money is gonna bypass us.
So it will always go through us and then town council. and then-
That
For
gives you a
approval
little
and
bit-
then it's paid through the trust. Okay,
And having Shannon be an extra, that's another internal control,
yeah.
which is great.
And are we still good on our visitor center, what we approved at the end of or the beginning of the year? We have to still be under budget. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
well, I think there's a,
Or was that in here?
I've been working on fixing that dashboard that
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
got away and then, yeah, I think you guys are happy with this financial
Yeah.
report, but that dashboard is still kind of helpful.
It shows
Yeah,
the
it is.
25,601.
Yeah, and you all committed.
It's like 40.
Yeah.
44.
46.
Well, a couple of those were left from last year that we approved at the end of last year. So they showed up on this year's. They weren't completed until this year.
Committed
I think we got
26.
And we've had that happen for several years in a row.
My guess is they'll be still submitting ones after 2024, what we approved in 2024.
Yeah, there's just a little bit.
Right now, I think most of them are paid up that have been requested.
By the way, I think they just hired Hannah Croy to replace Amber.
I
Wow.
saw that.
I
Yeah.
saw that for visitor center, but is she gonna do the park too?
No.
Oh, it's just for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For the visitor center.
somebody sent that out. I'm going,
I thought I was on teaching.
yeah.
Yeah, I was on Town Gown Lake. Well, now time to look at the 2025 spending plan discussion. Marty, did you want to talk about this?
I have them. Give me just a minute. I'm gonna get them up.
She's gonna put them on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. 557.
Okay.
And I can't hear Karen that well, so you need to let me know when she's ready.
Okay, we'll tell you.
Yep, there you go.
There, it's there.
You're on. Yep.
Okay, great. So I'm looking at the slide that says 2025 CRC spending plan. This is somewhat familiar to you, everybody that's observed, I guess, because we went over it at the last meeting. So just to give you the sense of the sequence, at today's meeting, or by today's meeting, we were wanting to get input from our legal and our muni advisors. We wanted to take this time today to start to prioritize the relative priorities for our spending for next year. And we wanted to make sure that we had a good handle on what our past spending was and start to get a sense of our revenue estimate for next year. So that's what we want to get accomplished today. A month from now, by a month from now, we want to have feedback from all the stakeholders, and we want to make sure that we have reviewed the over 2040 plan and the initiatives in there to see how that might impact our spending plan. And we're going to want to talk about that next month. And then in our November meeting, which we moved to the 14th, we want to have a final spending plan that we can all vote on, and once approved, we can recommend it to be filed with the town council and the LGA. Everybody okay with that? Can we move on?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, great. So the next slide, these are the questions that we teed up. I kind of reordered them a little bit. And so what is the required spending plan format? We did get input from both Baker Tilly and indirectly from Barnes and Thornburg on that. And each of them has developed a model plan to submit. The formats are a little different, but the categories kind of break out about the same. There's about 15 categories, 14 in one, 15 in another. And to give you a sense, one of those categories is allowed capital expenditures. And that is indicative of how broad, some of these categories are. And that's where, a lot of our traditional spending is going to wind up kind of bucketed up into that one category. So I wanted to give you a sense for how broad some of these are. Some are very specific, right? Like, I think, seminar expenses for CRC members, is a separate category, but some of them are very broad as well. The second question is, does the plan commission or town council need to approve our plan? The answer is no, there's no formal approval. It's just, it needs to be filed with the town council. And I suppose if we file it on time by December 1st, and they don't like it, then maybe we don't get reappointed next year. Maybe that's the control that the town council has.
That's a thought.
Can we try to get unappointed?
Right. So I'd like to target the 21st of November. Our meeting's on the 14th. We could do some final tweaks and try and get it to them when we get advance or so because of the Thanksgiving holiday. Let's see. The third question, is there a process for handling unexpected items or holdover items? And the good news there is that yes, there is. The advice that we've gotten from both Baker Tilly and Barnes and Thornburg is when you budget the maximum possible you're anticipating or maximum possible you can spend. You can always spend less, but go in at the biggest number you got. And then if you do need to make a change in your plan, there is a process with the DLGF for uploading an amended plan, which of course would also need to be filed with the town council.
Is that, Marty, do you know if that amended plan, can that be at any time throughout
Yeah,
the year?
from what I gathered from Karen, Karen's close to this, maybe closer than I am, but that's the sense I get.
Yeah, I mean,
Whenever.
that's what I was getting, and it kind of sounded like there wasn't really any oversight by the DLGF. Like, we have to submit it to them, but I don't know who's checking to see if we're following it.
I suspect they're just looking at them this year and then they'll come down with you know,
Probably,
30 new rules for us to follow next year.
Or
Yeah.
they'll
It'll
soon be doing audits like they do for municipalities.
yeah, I don't know if they're gonna do
Yeah.
that or not, because it's not under the umbrella of State Board of Accounts, which they're the ones that do the audits. It's under the Department of Local Government Finance, so, I don't know.
Yeah, that could be.
I think Sally's correct that it'll be that, or it'll be used as a negotiating item when it comes, when whoever in the new legislature comes up and for AR on redevelopment commissions.
Well, there are some redevelopment commissions doing some wacky things with the money.
Yeah.
So none of it's surprising. Like I remember Barnes and Thornburg during some of our Dunes conversations, he said there's some really weird stuff people have tried to get away with that you're not supposed to spend those funds on. And so no surprise that it's catching the attention of somebody downstate, right? Or there's been, somebody in the local community complaining
Complaining
that there's no oversight or
Yeah.
internal control like you have with the clerk's office. Yeah,
right.
so you can't kick them off without the council doing that or city.
There's not accountability, basically.
Yeah,
So that's a lot of information or clarity over the last 30 days. I'm pretty pleased with that. I think we know what we need to do. It's basically filling out, a bunch of blanks and filing it. Now the hard work for us comes, now we got to figure out what to put into those blanks. And that's the next question is, how much spending for each category, setting aside money for larger development activities, water plant upgrades, we need to focus on and see, is there a role for us or not? That's a little up in the air right now, depending upon some other things that the town council is working on. Budgeting for professional fees, and of course, the 2040 initiatives as well. So moving on to the next slide, I just tried to give some sense as to, is it bigger than a bread box? Kind of, how many dollars are we talking about? And so the next slide 4, what's the top line? I just took our August balance of 802,735. That's from the financial report we just approved. The September claims that we just approved, 78,858, take that away. And then what is committed in 2024 that we haven't paid yet? The Christmas decorations at 6265. And then we've got a trails thing for 148,804. And I think, Karen, you said that may or may not actually get expensed in 2024. That may be a carryover item or something that just gets reassigned to something else, right?
We have some issues coming up that we're probably gonna have to discuss in the next month. We'll know more soon.
Did you hear that, Marty?
No, I didn't.
She said there's some issues coming up that she'll need to discuss in the next month or so.
related to that trail money.
Okay, so right now we'll keep it as a placeholder, right? And so that would leave us a balance at the end of the year of 568,808 minus whatever else we decide to spend money on this year. New facade grants come in, other requests that we feel are appropriate. But otherwise, we would end the year at 568,808. So then we would add to that our 2025 estimated revenue, and I just put in a number that I think was 2024's number approximately, or maybe it was 2023's number approximately of 670,000. Does that sound right, Karen?
Yeah, I think you'll probably realize a little bit higher because the assessed values are increasing. But that's probably a safe number to go with.
Conservative. So if we take that year-end projection and conservative revenue estimate for next year, we'll have $1,238,808 to put into our spending plan. And we have committed at this point in time just a couple of things. We've got a TIP bond, the last payment on that particular bond. We've got another year on the water commitment at $30,000 a year, and then we've got a last year to support the Christmas decorations in town. Those things total up to $83,128. So there's still over $1,000,001 that we would need to divide up into our categories to get to the maximum possible spend. I would suggest one of those categories is going to be, whether we call it a rainy day or a reserve or something, there's some minimum level that we don't want to end 2025 below. And we're going to need to figure out what that is as a team as well. I'm going to pause there and ask for any comments, thoughts you guys have.
Well, I guess we need to figure out if we're expecting any bonds to need to be issued for, the CRC would need to fund or help fund.
Is this 83,120, this TIF bond, is that this 2025, the last payment on that one?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I
And-
thought.
By law, you have to keep in reserve at least the amount of your bonds each year.
Right.
However, I wouldn't recommend spending it all.
Right.
Yep.
Because the OG comes up somewhere along the line where, something fails and we step in to help pay for some large infrastructure problem that,
Mhm.
Exactly.
you could have, 2 sections of the sewer line on Main Street collapse that you weren't planning on have happen and, that
Well,
kind of
there
thing.
may be capital reserve, that we want to start to build
Right.
towards some projects as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What were you gonna say, Karen?
I was just gonna suggest that, as you're doing this budget, you build within the budget kind of this is what we plan to spend this year, but we're also gonna put this money in this category for the following year. So it may look like a lot more money that's like approved to spend, but there's also like a sub budget.
Mhm.
So you're kind of tracking, we know these expenses are gonna hit. So like your
Well-
water fund,
the water bond that we support
correct,
goes until 2035,
right. And so
and that's
each year,
30,000 a year,
Mhm.
but
so you just want to earmark that, yes, $30,000 each year is going towards that.
right.
Mhm.
We don't have to worry about like the construction, like what we just voted on, that's gonna go through the town council because it's not getting paid out of us, even though we're approving it.
Yeah, right now it's not getting paid out of it. So actually the 78,858 on claims is a lot higher number than what you're actually,
Right.
What's
writing
coming out
checks
of the
for this
budget,
month.
yeah.
But they're not gonna look at that and say, wait, what's going on here?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm still kind of figuring the logistics of all of that out. So, but I don't think it's gonna be a situation where that needs to appear in your spending budget.
The geo bond that we're considering, with this budget of 2025.
For the town, yeah.
Yeah, has, Baker Tilly given us an idea of what the annual payment on that would be, Karen?
It'll be right around 150,000.
Okay, that's good to know.
We've already kind of figured, and we did ask the question, would it be possible for the Redevelopment Commission to commit monies towards that? And it sounded like there were a couple of hoops that we'd have to jump through. And I'm not sure if those hoops would need to be before the bond is issued or if we can deal with that after the bond is issued. It wasn't real clear, but there were just some additional steps,
Okay.
so.
Yeah.
And if we don't want to jump through hoops, we could instead commit to something operationally that we're allowed to pay for.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
But it would have to be like very clear what we're putting money in, say, general fund.
I would
To cover.
suggest that maybe a commitment toward emergency services vehicles.
Yeah.
That's
That's what I'm thinking, like
Yeah,
big capital.
yeah, because I was thinking operational, like, month to month kind
Yeah.
of things.
No,
but
I'm
the-
thinking
the
like
capital
equipment.
improvement.
Yeah. That's exactly where my head is at.
Yeah.
Because if the hoops cost money too, attorney time or Baker Tilly time.
Yes.
Why go through the hoops? When we
Right,
know we've got these big capital things that we have to pay for, like the new fire truck.
Yes.
There's going to be another ambulance any day, that sort of thing.
you're right. I mean, every,
I think there's gonna be potential to do, some project-related work related to, revitalizing Main Street. And I don't know what shape that project work would take. But, I'd like to suggest we think about, establishing something significant, to focus on a Main Street revitalization. There's a lot more than just CRC's money that would be required in order to do it. I think the Main Street organization would have to be revived. I think we'd have to get a vision that we share with, that would be shared with the retailers, town council and us and everything. But I think we're in a position to facilitate establishing that vision and establishing a plan, a long-term plan for Main Street that we can start executing toward. And I'd like to see us think about putting some money toward that effort.
Yeah, even if the first year it's toward a planning direction or consultant or, is that kind of where you're at, Marty, like 2025?
There's a lot of ideas about, buy this building, rehab that one, right? And Karen, I think, said it best when we were talking about it. You don't want to just start shooting, right?
Agreed.
You want to have a target. You want to have a
plan to do it.
You're trying to get toward. So you got to start there.
Maybe it is like a downtown revitalization master plan, and it takes a 5-year approach, or there's like the short-term approach plus a long-term, kind of depending on what we're trying to accomplish. Like short-term, we probably all go, we want to fill these empty storefronts, but there's also aging buildings. There's a lot. It needs a more comprehensive approach than just, hey, let's try buying one of these and see what happens. And hey,
see,
let's try this program and see what happens there. And
let's buy this and rehab it. And the thing is if you do that, it can be anything from 50,000 for a rehab to 350,000 to rehab a building, depending on what you find once you get in and take the drywall off.
Or more.
Yeah, or more, right.
there's a programming side to all of this too,
Yeah.
that, we have a great facade program. There might be other things out there that in a study, we would
Right,
at least expose ourselves to what's working in other downtowns.
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, but I've been trying to load up on that, and it gets complicated pretty quick and nuanced pretty quick. So where you want to start, I think, for us, is that vision. We need to know what we can reasonably try to do. Can we do what Wabash did on a smaller scale, right? Or do we have to set our sights a little lower? I don't know where to peg it, but we don't want to shoot too low, but we don't want to, go chasing something that just, the economics, the reality won't allow us to achieve, right? There's a place that we we should be based on our specific, aspects of our town, right? The economics of our town, the lake, the academy, part-time, full-time, everything we've got, we've got to, I think, find the expertise to help us put that puzzle together to say, this is what's reasonable on an aspirational basis, reasonable for you to try to do.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I do think what you're getting at though, Marty, is that was a big priority of the comp plan. So it makes sense for us to realize that we're going to have to make some investment there. And maybe the first year or 18 months of investment is on the planning vision side of it. And then following up on that would be implementing that plan.
And there's certainly some short-term things involving Main Street that we may want to consider in the spending plan as well, in addition to that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking wayfinding banners, we've been hearing a lot.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to hear some more from these stakeholders and kind of hash that out next month.
Yeah, and what's great about that though is as you're putting together a plan for the downtown and you do start learning some of the things you could cherry pick immediately, right? Because we're going to get that kind of feedback. And even from non-retail people that have good ideas or they come from communities that have strong main streets or have, so yeah, that makes sense.
So then the next slide just has the historical spending categories that we could consider. We haven't talked about park-related projects. We haven't, the trails are in there, right, that we got to figure out. I did put the safety and protection vehicle purchases in there. Tree commission, I don't know if there, I think, Karen, you need to tell us if there's some things that are usually in the town council budget that we need to think may spill over, right? A spillover request, maybe we need to think about any of that stuff. I really kind of turn to you, Karen, for advice and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest one would be that those capital asset, with the emergency services. Yeah, I think the tree commission, when you mentioned that one, I think that was a one-off situation.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a IU grant coming in with 50 trees. I don't think that they'll be asking for additional monies. You got the.
So nothing to vote on, but that's the presentation I had for you. And unfortunately, I can't stick around much longer here with you. I apologize. It's unavoidable. I have to go.
No problem,
problem.
No
Marty.
problem. Our one question before you leave the meeting. Under new business, you have presentation to overlapping taxing units. Were you planning on that being for next month?
Yeah, Karen, I think you suggested that we do it in October.
Yeah, let's plan on that, and I will send letters out to the overlapping taxing units, inviting them to the meeting, and you could do it maybe at the beginning of the meeting, and then,
Yeah.
yeah, and then go into your regular meeting, if that's okay.
That sounds good. Do you want to do it like we did it last November? I think we just kind of presented the April plan and kind of updated it a little bit. We didn't ask Speaker Tilly to do it for us, but we could always do that if we think we should.
I
He
think
thinks we should.
you guys have a good handle on it, and we can present that plan and go from there. If people have questions, we can answer them or get back to them.
I'm comfortable giving it away.
Okay.
Marty, one thing I like about us going through this exercise, honestly, with categories, if we decided we'll invest in potential future park additions, like if we there could be open green space somewhere that we can create a second part. That was a goal of our last comp plan. And
Yeah.
What's nice is whatever we come up with, communicating this plan out to the public on social media and our website and stuff like that will send a message of these are the things we want to invest in. And I'm not sure that's always been as clear from a CRC standpoint, but an important one. And also, we know we want to invest in Main Street. There's certain things on here that really do look like absolutely no brainers. And it'll communicate then also to Main Street and the merchants. We're taking this seriously. We're going to want your input. We're going to want engagement on it, that sort of thing. But I think that's the upside to us having to do this. And maybe DLGF saw it that way too, because you end up more tightly engaged with the public, which then holds you accountable to it. But anyway, we know you have to run.
All right, well, thank you very much, everybody. Jerry, welcome. Glad to have you on board.
Thank you.
Bye, Marty.
Hi, Marty.
See you.
Take care, Marty. Is there any public input?
The only thing that strikes me as a talking point is the trail. I know it may not be out in the open right now, but is that moving forward? Are we going to see next phase come to fruition?
There's two trail projects technically that got combined into one under NDOT, has 24 numbers, one bidded out project though. And I think we were awarded the grant dollars for Lake Max Phase 3 in 2018, the year after we won Stellar. The other trail project on the west end was technically a regional Stellar. Well, 6 years ago, those estimates were much lower than they are now. And NDOT doesn't typically go, oh yeah, it's been 6 years and we just finally got around to funding this and we've moved the letting date 4 times. And they don't typically go, so we're going to give you the extra $500,000. It came in over estimate. And it doesn't mean that that's the estimate. It would have to still go to bid. But if you decide not to do it, then you've got an investment already with NDOT. They've got money invested. So then you have a lot of questions like, well, if we bid it and we don't do it, what happens? Or knowing that the one piece on the west side was really a regional Stellar project, there's still regional Stellar money that was supposedly set aside. We're wondering, can we have a bigger piece of that since Bremen didn't do their trail? So we have a lot of questions to see what will come of it. We can still bid it out and see where those bids land, but NDOT is guessing that they're going to come in pretty high. Most trail projects are getting bid pretty high across the state, so.
Is there, I guess, continued and sufficient momentum to keep it alive?
I think if we had money, we would do as much as we could trail wise. I mean, we had a plan to try to get that trail around the lake. It gets harder when you're not in your own jurisdiction, obviously, but most trails are getting paid with grant dollars, and the last governor was really big on trails. So I think part of it will also depend on if the governor supports trails in this new administration. The rumor among all the private firms is that Next Level Trails is done. It's going away. But it doesn't mean the next governor won't come out with his version of a trail funding. I was just at a trail conference today. And one of the questions asked, there was a state rep there who's a big advocate of trails. She was asked, what's it looking like for support for replacing Next Level Trails in 2025? She said it's kind of lukewarm. Like neither candidate seems against trails. Neither one of them seems to be strong on trails. But the federal government has gotten a lot stronger on trails. So there's, I think it's called ATIF, is one of the federal grant funds that can pay for miles of trails. RAISE is another one. ATIP started as a $40 million pool of money, and it grew to 250 million, and it has sustained that level, and they're going to ask for more. RAISE is another one. You can get up to 25 million through RAISE. They're very competitive grants. So they're really complicated and tough to get. But like the NERC MPO got a RAISE grant they're building on the Marquette Trail. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but eventually the Marquette Trail will hit the Chesty Trail and connect Michigan City with LaPorte City. And then if they want to connect that one to the one in South Bend. So there's lots of plans for some of the cities and towns doing these, but when it gets to be over $1 million a mile, it's really hard to get them done.
So what would be the next touchstone or significant event that would move our trails a little further?
With us, the next steps are to find out if there's other money available through either NDOT or Regional Stellar. And then also whether or not we move forward with bidding it out and see where the bids land. It's kind of hard to make the decision without knowing.
Yeah.
Some of these companies come in with reasonable bids, but if they're really busy, they're not going to necessarily bid on it.
And this is an effort that would be undertaken by the CRC?
CRC funded the matches on these, all of them, actually. Council didn't have any of that. So yeah, it would probably come back here for what do you want to do now?
And
It would be probably us just for the funding though, as far
Mhm.
as the plan and plan
Right.
commission and town council would have to
so,
approve. the
Jenny, are you still a
project.
champion for this project?
Yeah, I would love to see us have 10 times the trails we have. But to me, all the data points to where you have trails, you have economic development, you have wellness. There's so many. I've not seen any report on the downside of trails.
Yeah.
And there's just so much data saying completely the opposite.
Is any of this tied into the federal Blue Zone projects and funding?
If we were doing Blue Zone, yeah, they would definitely be encouraging. They do a 3-pronged approach with Blue Zone, and one is the built environment. And part of the built environment is, are you connecting people and assets? So can your kids walk to school? Can people walk to their job? Can you access food via walking or biking? They would definitely encourage that. And then they'd encourage policy, and policy would be that if a developer comes in and does a dunes project type of development, you policy-wise require them to put in a trail or sidewalks. So we do have a policy in Culver. If you do a major renovation or a new build, you have to put sidewalk. So I don't know. Blue Zones is people policy and built environment, I think is what they call it. I can't remember. I went to their conference. But Blue Zones will never happen in Marshall County. But
I got that.
yeah. So at least not under the current Republican Party.
Okay, well, thank you. I just was hoping that.
The state does have good bipartisan involvement in trails, though. Like, it's not just one side or the other. There's bipartisan committee that works on trails, and they work closely with Greenway Trails, which is a foundation, probably the big one in Indiana. And there's a couple others that they have. So, and actually Indiana is viewed as one of the pro-trail states in the country. you know, the Rails to Trails has the 12 states across. We're one of those. And the guy presenting today was saying that Indiana added like 168 miles of trail just in the past like couple of years because of Next Level Trails with the governor putting all that money out there.
Yeah, but like you say, $1 million a mile is kind of expensive for a
Mm-hmm.
10-foot wide trail.
Mm-hmm. But you know, it's interesting because Rails to Trails has a ton of data on where they've put trails, the ROI and the number of new businesses along the trail, a number of just tons of great data showing. And actually, they have neighborhoods becoming safer because of. You can
Yeah.
see, I went to River Park today down in Indy, which you get there via 38th Street and you drive through Martin Luther King and 38th and all that. And where they put in the River Park Trail, and there used to be an old school there, it's now a community center. It's completely revitalized this area. It's bizarre, like it's cleaned up, it's active, people are out walking, it's completely different neighborhood now. And they attribute that to the trail, which is why they hold the trail conference there, so people can see this actually does work.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan of them. I don't know. It seemed like our council and our Culver Crossroads team and most people were pro trail in Culver. The one on Plymouth Street that upset people was the not in my backyard kind of thing. But that's the first time we've really had major negative feedback on a trail. I don't know how they feel about it today. I mean, frankly, I think it made that neighborhood safer. People were walking right up the middle of the road. Because Bob and I would drive over there and I'd be like, why are they walking literally in the center line of the road? What is going on? And Bob's like, they've been doing that for years.
Yeah.
I hope they're not still doing that with the big wide sidewalk right there,
Yeah.
but
They are.
yeah, fire truck flies through there, they're gonna take someone down.
Thanks.
Any other public input? Is there anybody online? So that ends the public input. Member input? You have anything? Jenny?
I was gonna share with you that I was at a trail conference, but you just heard it all, right?
Okay. Sarah, do you have
Just
anything?
welcome to Jerry. I know Marty would do that for me.
Yeah, and I didn't
Glad to have you
welcome
aboard.
Jerry for
Thanks
this meeting.
showing.
My apologies. Marty already
Marty's
left,
gone.
so I don't have to ask him if he's got any input. Have a motion to adjourn and sign claims.
Sure, so moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It'd be good to have someone from emergency